At 6:47 p.m. on June 27, 2003, the temperature in Oscoda County, Michigan hovered at 84 degrees Fahrenheit, unseasonably warm for the Upper Peninsula, where pine forests stretched for miles and the nearest neighbor might be a quarter-mile away through dense woods. The air hung thick with humidity, carrying the scent of white pine sap and damp earth. Oscoda County, population 8,640, was the kind of place where people knew each other's names, where doors stayed unlocked, and where a family could disappear without anyone noticing for days. The McAllister family, David, 41, a machinist at Northwood Precision Manufacturing, his wife Jennifer, 38, a substitute teacher, and their two children, Emma, 14, and Cole, 11, lived at 4782 Blackwood Road, a narrow two-lane route that wound through state forest land like a thread through fabric. Their property sat on 12 acres of mixed hardwood and pine, the white farmhouse with green shutters barely visible from the road. A gravel driveway stretched 300 feet from the mailbox to the house, flanked by wild raspberry bushes and towering oaks. By 9:30 p.m. that night, the McAllister house stood dark and silent. No porch light burned. No television flickered through the living room curtains. The family's 1998 Burgundy Ford Expedition was gone from its usual spot beside the detached garage. By midnight, when Jennifer's sister Karen tried calling for the third time that evening and heard only endless ringing. No answering machine, no voicemail, just that hollow electronic pulse echoing into darkness. Something had already gone terribly wrong. What happened in those final hours before the McAllister family vanished from Blackwood Road? And why would it take 20 years to answer that question? If you're finding this case as compelling as we do, please subscribe to stay updated on cold case investigations that finally found resolution after decades of silence. June 27, 2003 begins ordinarily for the McAllisters. David McAllister leaves for his 6 a.m. shift at Northwood Precision Manufacturing, a mid-sized facility 7 miles outside Oscoda that produces industrial components, hydraulic cylinders, precision-machined parts, custom metal fabrication. He's worked there 16 years, steady and reliable, the kind of employee who arrives 10 minutes early and stays late when production deadlines loom. Jennifer McAllister drives Emma and Cole into town at 8:15 a.m. She drops Cole at summer baseball camp at the community center, then takes Emma to her volunteer shift at the county library. Jennifer herself stops at Mel's Market on Highway 23, the only grocery store within 15 miles. Security footage, grainy, date stamped June 27, 03, 9:22 a.m., shows Jennifer in a yellow sundress pushing a cart down the cereal aisle. She buys eggs, milk, chicken breasts, a bag of apples, 2 boxes of Cheerios, a 6-pack of Coca-Cola. At the register, she chats with the cashier, Linda Kowalski, about the heat wave. Linda will later recall that Jennifer seemed perfectly normal, happy even, said something about David grilling that night. At 11:30 a.m., Jennifer picks up Cole from baseball camp. The camp director, Tom Henderson, remembers Cole being excited about catching a fly ball during practice. He ran right to his mom, practically bouncing. Kid was grinning ear to ear. Emma finishes her library shift at 1 p.m. She calls home from the library's landline. The call registers on the McAllister phone records at 1:04 p.m., duration 3 minutes. Jennifer picks her up at 1:20 p.m. The family returns home. What happens in the next 6 hours remains partially reconstructed from evidence, partially shrouded in the kind of silence that only crime scenes provide. At 3:47 p.m., David McAllister clocks out of Northwood Precision. His time card shows he worked a full shift, 6 a.m. to 3:45 p.m., with a 30-minute lunch break. Coworkers report nothing unusual about his behavior. Dave was Dave. One colleague, Marcus Chun, tells investigators later, quiet guy, did his work, didn't complain. David's route home is documented by a single piece of evidence. A gas station receipt from Murphy's Gas and Go on Highway 23, time-stamped 4:02 p.m. He purchases $32.50 in unleaded gasoline for the Ford Expedition. The station's security camera captures him pumping gas, wearing his work clothes, blue jeans, a gray Northwood Precision t-shirt, steel-toed boots. He appears alone. He does not go inside the station. After 4:02 p.m., the McAllister family's movements become harder to trace. Jennifer McAllister makes one final phone call at 5:18 p.m. from the landline at 4782 Blackwood Road. She calls her sister Karen in Lansing, 230 miles south. The call lasts 7 minutes. Karen later describes it as completely normal. Jenny said David was going to grill burgers. She asked about my kids. We talked about getting together for the 4th of July. Nothing seemed wrong. Nothing at all. At 6:47 p.m., the last moment the family can be placed with certainty, a neighbor, Russell Dempsey, who lives a quarter-mile west on Blackwood Road, hears a vehicle engine starting. It was their expedition, he tells police later. I know the sound. Dave's exhaust was always a little loud. Needed a muffet fix. I was out watering my garden, and I heard it turn over. Then the sound faded east down Blackwood. East on Blackwood Road leads deeper into state forest land. After 3 miles, the pavement ends. Blackwood becomes a dirt 2-track used by hunters and loggers, threading through swamp and cedar stands before eventually connecting to a network of unmarked trails. By 9:30 p.m., darkness has settled over Oscoda County. Temperatures drop to 71 degrees Fahrenheit. A light wind rustles through pine boughs. Fireflies pulse in the meadow behind the McAllister house. Karen calls her sister's landline at 9:33 p.m. It rings. No answer. She tries again at 10:15 p.m. Still ringing. At 11:48 p.m., growing uneasy. Jennifer always answers or returns calls within an hour. Karen tries one more time. The phone rings into emptiness. At the house on Blackwood Road, no one hears it. Karen McAllister-Hartwell wakes at 6:30 a.m. on June 28th with a knot of anxiety in her stomach. She calls her sister's house again. No answer. She calls David's cell phone. Voicemail. Jennifer's cell phone. Voicemail. At 8:45 a.m., Karen calls the Oscoda County Sheriff's Office. I think something's wrong with my sister's family, she tells the dispatcher. They're not answering their phones. It's been since last night. The dispatcher takes down information. Name, Jennifer McAllister. Address, 4782 Blackwood Road. Last contact, phone call at 5:18 p.m., June 27th. We can send a deputy for a welfare check, the dispatcher says. Deputy Robert Talbot arrives at the McAllister property at 10:22 a.m. He drives slowly up the gravel driveway, noting the stillness. No dogs barking, no movement at the windows. The burgundy Ford Expedition is not in the driveway. The detached garage door is closed. Talbot knocks on the front door. No answer. He walks around the perimeter of the house, peering through windows. Everything inside appears orderly. No signs of disturbance. No broken glass. The back door is locked. He checks the garage unlocked. Inside, David's blue 1995 Chevy S10 pickup truck. Lawn mower. Gardening tools. Workbench. Everything neat. Expedition missing. Talbot radios dispatch. No one home. Vehicle gone. No obvious signs of trouble. Might be a trip or family emergency. But Karen insists otherwise. Jennifer would have told me. She would have called. This isn't like her. By noon, Karen is driving north from Lansing, a 3.5-hour journey of mounting dread. She arrives at Blackwood Road at 3:45 p.m. Deputy Talbot meets her there. Karen has a key. They enter together. Inside, the house tells a story of interrupted normalcy. In the kitchen, dishes drying in the rack beside the sink. A grocery bag, the one from Mel's Market, sitting on the counter, items still inside. The Cheerios boxes, the apples. The chicken breasts in the refrigerator still in their plastic wrap. On the dining table, Emma's library volunteer schedule, held down by a coffee mug. In the living room, Cole's baseball glove on the couch. The TV remote. A folded newspaper from June 26th. Upstairs, beds made. Clothes in closets. Toothbrushes in the bathroom. David's wallet on the dresser, but missing his driver's license and $47 in cash. Jennifer's purse, missing her wallet. Karen checks the answering machine. For messages, 3 from her, 1 from Jennifer's friend Susan, calling about book club. Something happened, Karen says, her voice hollow. They didn't just leave. They wouldn't leave everything like this. By 5 p.m., the welfare check becomes a missing persons investigation. Sheriff Harold Dunham, a 32-year veteran of rural law enforcement, with a face like weathered oak and a reputation for methodical thoroughness, takes command. He's seen his share of missing persons cases in Oscoda County. Most end with simple explanations. A family visiting relatives and forgetting to mention it. A spontaneous camping trip. Cell phones dying. Miscommunication. But something about the McAllister house unsettles him. Too neat, he tells his lead investigator, Detective Sergeant Raymond Kowalczyk. If they planned a trip, where's the packed bags? If there was an emergency, where's the rush? This looks like they stepped out for an hour and never came back. Kowalczyk, 44, lean and sharp-eyed, begins the meticulous work of evidence collection. He photographs every room. He bags the grocery receipt from Mel's Market. He notes the positions of items, the coffee mug, the baseball glove, the newspaper. He checks phone records, computer history, recent mail. What he doesn't find: notes, calendars marking trips, recent arguments reported by friends, financial troubles, signs of domestic violence. What he does find: a family that, by all accounts, was content. David had steady work. Jennifer was active in the community. Emma and Cole were good students. They paid their mortgage on time. They had $3,400 in their checking account. They were not running from anything. By evening on June 28th, the Oscoda County Sheriff's Office issues a BOLO, be on the lookout, for the McAllister family and their burgundy 1998 Ford Expedition, Michigan license plate GHT 592. Description: David McAllister, white male, 41, 5 feet 10 inches, 185 pounds, brown hair, hazel eyes. Jennifer McAllister, white female, 38, 5 feet 6 inches, 140 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes. Emma McAllister, white female, 14, 5 feet 4 inches, 110 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. Cole McAllister, white male, 11, 4 feet 9 inches, 85 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes. The alert goes out to Michigan State Police, neighboring counties, and bordering states. June 29, 2003. Temperature at dawn: 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity: 82%. The sky hangs pale and hazy. At 7 a.m., a full-scale search operation begins. Sheriff Dunham mobilizes resources: 25 deputies from Oscoda County, 8 Michigan State Police troopers, volunteer search teams from 3 neighboring counties totaling 68 civilians. They establish a command post at the Oscoda Community Center, where maps of the county are spread across folding tables. Red lines mark Blackwood Road and the network of trails extending into state forest. The search grid divides the area into quadrants. Teams of 4, mix of law enforcement and trained volunteers, equipped with radios, GPS units, topographic maps, water, and first aid kits, move methodically through each section. 9 units arrive at 8:30 a.m. 3 German shepherds trained in human scent detection. Handlers provide the dogs with scent articles from the McAllister home: Jennifer's pillowcase, David's work shirt, Emma's hairbrush, Cole's baseball cap. The dogs work the property first, noses down, tails rigid. They pick up trails leading to the driveway, then lose them where the expedition was parked. One dog, a shepherd named Axel, alerts on a trail heading east from the driveway into the woods. The team follows. The trail continues 200 feet, then stops abruptly at a clearing where tire tracks are visible in soft earth. Wide, consistent with an SUV. The tracks lead to Blackwood Road. They drove out, the K9 handler says. East on Blackwood. Search teams push east, following the pavement, then the dirt 2-track. The forest grows denser. White cedar, black spruce, tamarack swamps. Mosquitoes swarm in clouds. Heat climbs to 86 degrees Fahrenheit by noon. Searchers sweat through their shirts. Radio static crackling. Boots squelching in boggy ground. A Michigan State Police helicopter, equipped with forward-looking infrared, FLIR, thermal imaging, sweeps overhead starting at 10 a.m. The camera detects heat signatures. Deer, a black bear, scattered patches where sun warms rocks and metal debris. No human heat signatures. No vehicle matching the expedition's profile. By 3 p.m., searchers have covered an area of approximately 12 square miles. They find one rusted 1970s truck chassis, 8 beer cans, a deer carcass, 2 abandoned hunting blinds, and a collapsed trapper's shack. No Ford Expedition. No McAllisters. At the command post, Detective Kowalczyk receives phone records from the McAllister landline and cell phones. He spreads printouts across a table, scanning numbers. The last outgoing call from Jennifer's cell, 3:12 p.m. on June 27th, to Mel's Market. She'd forgotten to pick up bread, wanted to confirm they had whole wheat. The last outgoing call from David's cell, 11:47 a.m. on June 27th, to a coworker about swapping shifts. Incoming calls, multiple from Karen on June 27th evening and June 28th morning. One from Susan regarding book club. One from an automated pharmacy reminder about refilling Jennifer's allergy medication. Cell phone tower pings, the last location triangulation, place both Jennifer's and David's phones near the Blackwood Road property between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. on June 27th. After 6 p.m., no pings. Phones either turned off, dead, or out of range. They went somewhere with no cell coverage, Kowalczyk notes. Or the phones were deliberately powered down. June 30th, third day of searching. Temperature, 89 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat unrelenting. Volunteers return, grim-faced and exhausted. The scope expands. Search teams now cover a 20-mile radius from Blackwood Road. State police divers check lakes and rivers. Aviation units fly grid patterns. Bloodhounds retrace routes. At 2:17 p.m., a critical discovery. A search team working a logging road 9 miles northeast of Blackwood Road finds tire tracks consistent with a full-size SUV, pressed deep into mud beside a 2-track spur that dead-ends at an old clear-cut. The tracks are recent, post-rainstorm. It rained lightly June 26th. The team radios coordinates. Kowalczyk arrives within 30 minutes. He examines the tracks. Tread pattern matches Firestone Wilderness at tires, common on Ford Expeditions. Wheelbase measurement, consistent with Expedition dimensions. But the tracks lead into the clear-cut, circle a small area, then return to the logging road heading back west. Someone drove in here, turned around, drove out, Kowalczyk says. The team searches the clear-cut on foot. Stumps, brambles, debris from logging operations. No vehicle, no people, no belongings. Then, at 3:05 p.m., a volunteer named Mitchell Carr finds something. A red plastic gasoline can, 5-gallon capacity, lying on its side near the tree line. It's empty, cap missing, faint smell of gasoline still clinging to the interior. Kowalczyk bags it. Evidence tag. Oscoda 03-0627, item 04. But whose gas can? Does it belong to the McAllisters? There's no way to know immediately. The search continues. By nightfall on June 30th, exhaustion settles over the operation like dust. 72 hours of searching. Over 200 personnel involved at various points. Approximately 40 square miles covered. Thousands of acres of forest combed. Results: tire tracks, a gas can, and silence. Sheriff Dunham holds a press conference at 7 p.m. in front of the Oscoda Community Center. Camera lights glare. Reporters cluster. Dunham's face is drawn. "We have not located the McAllister family or their vehicle," he says. "We are treating this as an active missing persons investigation. We ask anyone with information to contact the Oscoda County Sheriff's Office immediately." A reporter asks, "Do you suspect foul play?" Dunham pauses. "We're exploring all possibilities." Another reporter, "Could they have had an accident in the woods?" "If so," Dunham says, We haven't found evidence of it. The search continues. Karen McAllister-Hartwell stands beside him, trembling. Please, she says into the microphones. If anyone has seen my sister, my niece and nephew, my brother-in-law, please call. We just want them home. Behind them, the sun sets over Oscoda County, casting long shadows through the pines. Somewhere in that vast, indifferent forest or somewhere far beyond it, the McAllister family remains missing. The night swallows the last light. Radios fall silent. Search teams demobilize for the night, promising to resume at dawn. But dawn on July 1st brings no breakthroughs. The case, still 72 hours old, begins its slow, agonizing transformation from active search to cold mystery. July 1st, 2003. Day 4. The Oscoda County Sheriff's Office shifts strategy. If the McAllisters aren't in the immediate wilderness, perhaps they traveled farther. Or perhaps something happened before they ever left the property. Detective Kowalczyk returns to 4782 Blackwood Road with a forensic team. 2 evidence technicians, Laura Chun and Dennis Kowalski, arrive with equipment cases, UV lights, luminol spray, fingerprint powder, evidence bags, cameras, portable alternate light source, ALS, units. They begin in the garage. Dennis photographs every surface, then dusts for fingerprints on door handles, light switches, toolbox latches. He lifts 17 usable prints, most match family members, confirmed later through comparison with prints from personal items. 3 partials remain unidentified, but they're smudged, degraded, likely old. Laura uses the ALS, a high-intensity lamp that emits light at various wavelengths, to scan for biological fluids invisible to the naked eye. She moves through the garage slowly. Floor, walls, workbench. The light reveals nothing unusual. Faint oil stains, sawdust residue, dried paint drips. In the house, they repeat the process. Each room photographed. Every surface examined. Laura sprays luminol, a chemical that reacts with iron and hemoglobin, causing a blue glow under UV light in the kitchen, bathroom, bedrooms. She darkens the rooms, switches on the UV lamp, and scans. The kitchen floor shows faint blue glow in spots, but it's consistent with food prep areas where raw meat was handled. The bathroom shows traces in the tub, but again, likely from minor cuts, nosebleeds, the ordinary bleeding of life. Nothing suggests violence. Upstairs, in the master bedroom, Laura finds something. A faint stain on the carpet beside the bed, approximately 4 inches in diameter, darker brown against the beige carpet. She sprays luminol. It glows blue. Possible blood, she says. Dennis collects a sample using a sterile swab moistened with distilled water. He places it in a collection tube labeled Oscoda 03-0627, item 12, seals it, logs it. Later, at the Michigan State Police Forensic Laboratory in Grayling, the sample tests positive for human blood. DNA analysis reveals blood belongs to Jennifer McAllister, type A positive, but there's no indication of quantity. The stain is small, superficial. It could be from anything. A scratched mosquito bite, a paper cut, a shaving nick. Kowalczyk reviews the finding. Not enough to indicate violence, he writes in his report. Consistent with minor injury. On July 8th, David McAllister's employer, Northwood Precision Manufacturing, receives national media attention when a Detroit news station runs a segment, Oscoda Family Missing. What happened to the McAllisters? The report features interviews with co-workers, photos of the family, aerial footage of the search operation. Kowalczyk drives to Northwood Precision on July 9th. The facility sits 3 miles outside Oscoda, surrounded by chain-link fencing. A low, sprawling metal building with loading docks, employee parking lot, and a small administrative office wing. The company manufactures hydraulic components, precision-machined metal parts, custom industrial equipment. Inside, Kowalczyk meets with the plant manager, Victor Brennan, a thick-shouldered man in his 50s with grease-stained hands and a skeptical expression. Dave was reliable, Brennan says. Worked here 16 years. Never missed a day unless he was sick. Good machinist. kept to himself mostly. Any recent problems? Kowalczyk asks. Arguments with coworkers? Complaints? Brennan shakes his head. Nothing. Dave did his job. Kowalczyk interviews 6 of David's coworkers. Each describes David as quiet, competent, unremarkable. No one reports conflicts. No one noticed unusual behavior in the days before June 27th. One coworker, Marcus Chen, offers a detail. Dave mentioned something about a weird smell on the property a few weeks back. Said it smelled like chemicals or something. He asked if we ever had issues with runoff from the plant. But I told him we don't discharge anything near residential areas. He didn't bring it up again. Kowalczyk writes this down. Chemical smell. Possible environmental issue? He files it mentally, unsure if it's relevant. He requests David's work records. Time cards? Pay stubs? Disciplinary actions? None. Safety incidents? None. Vacation requests. Everything appears normal. David's last shift, June 27th, 6 a.m. to 3:45 p.m., was routine. At Jennifer's workplace, Oscoda Elementary School, where she substitute teaches, Kowalczyk interviews the principal, Margaret Hayes. Jennifer was well-liked, dependable, good with children. No issues, no enemies. He interviews Jennifer's friends. Susan Callahan, who organized book club, Rita Palmer, who attended church with the McAllisters, Linda Kowalski from Mel's Market. All describe Jennifer as kind, devoted to her children, happily married. No marital problems. No financial stress. No secrets. Emma's friends describe her as shy, artistic, a good student. Cole's baseball coach describes him as energetic, friendly, loved the game. No one has any idea why the family would disappear. By mid-July, the case reaches an impasse. The massive search operation has been scaled back. Volunteers have returned to their lives. The media coverage dwindles. But the investigation continues, grinding through procedural steps. On July 15th, Detective Kowalczyk receives lab results from the red gas found near the logging road. Fingerprint analysis. 3 usable prints lifted from the plastic surface. None match David, Jennifer, Emma, or Cole McAllister. Comparison against AFIS, Automated Fingerprint Identification System. Michigan's database of over 4 million fingerprints. Yields no match. Unidentified, the lab report states. DNA swabs from the cap threads show trace saliva. The sample is sent for analysis. Results take 6 weeks. On August 29th, the report arrives. Insufficient DNA for profiling. The sample is degraded, exposed to sun and rain. The gas becomes another dead end. On July 22nd, a break, or what seems like one. A witness, Dale Munson, a truck driver passing through Oscoda County on June 27th, contacts police. He saw a burgundy SUV, possibly an Expedition, parked on the shoulder of Highway 23 near the junction with Blackwood Road, around 7:30 p.m. I remember because the hazards were on, Munson says. But no one was around it. Figured someone had car trouble. Kowalczyk arranges for Munson to give a formal statement. Munson describes the SUV. Looked like a 90s Ford Expedition. Burgundy or maroon. Michigan plates, but I didn't catch the number. Hazards blinking. Driver's door might have been open, but I'm not sure. I was driving 60 miles an hour. This sighting, if accurate, places the McAllister vehicle on Highway 23 at 7:30 p.m., roughly 50 minutes after Russell Dempsey heard it leave Blackwood Road. But why were the hazards on? Was it car trouble? A planned stop? Kowalczyk sends teams to search the Highway 23 shoulder. They find nothing. No abandoned items, no evidence of mechanical failure, no tire tracks. Dale Munson's account becomes part of the case file, intriguing but unverifiable. In any missing persons case, investigators examine close relationships first. Statistically, when someone vanishes, family members or acquaintances are often involved. Detective Kowalczyk knows this. He proceeds carefully. Karen, Jennifer's sister, reported the family missing. She was the last person to speak with Jennifer. Could there be a motive? Kowalczyk conducts an interview at the sheriff's office on August 4th. Karen, 41, sits across from him in a beige conference room, hands clasped. She answers every question without hesitation. Alibi for June 27th. Karen was in Lansing, 230 miles away. She worked her shift as an elementary school secretary from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Her supervisor, colleagues, and timestamped security footage confirm this. After work, she was home with her husband and 2 children. Her husband verifies this. Cell phone records place her in Lansing throughout the evening. Motive: none evident. Karen and Jennifer were close. No financial disputes. No family conflicts. Karen's financial records show no unusual transactions. DNA sample, provided voluntarily. Type O positive, does not match the blood found in the McAllister bedroom. Negative, Kowalczyk writes. No evidence of involvement. Kowalczyk considers whether David's employment might be connected. Did David witness something at work? Did he have a dispute with management? He interviews Brennan again on August 11th, this time focusing on David's final weeks at work. Did David seem concerned about anything? Kowalczyk asks. Brennan thinks. He mentioned the smell thing, chemicals on his property. But that's it. We checked our runoff systems. Everything was clean. We're compliant with EPA regulations. Alibi for June 27th. Brennan was at Northwood Precision until 6 p.m., then drove home to his residence in Oscoda. His wife confirms he arrived around 6:20 p.m. They had dinner together. Brennan provides credit card receipts showing purchases at a local hardware store on June 28th morning, indicating he was in Oscoda, not involved in any abduction. Motive: none. No conflicts with David. Company records show no disciplinary actions. No pending lawsuits. No financial motive. DNA sample, provided voluntarily. Type B positive. Does not match the fingerprints on the gas can. Negative, Kowalczyk writes. Dempsey lives a quarter-mile from the McAllisters. He was the last known person to hear the expedition leaving. Could he be involved? Kowalczyk interviews Dempsey on August 18th at Dempsey's home, a modest cabin-style house with a neatly maintained garden. Dempsey, 68, retired postal worker, widower, has lived on Blackwood Road for 32 years. He's friendly with the McAllisters but not close. Waves when passing. Exchanges pleasantries. Did you see anything unusual on June 27th? Kowalczyk asks. Nothing, Dempsey says. Just heard their truck start around 6:45. Heard it drive off. Didn't see it. I was out back watering. Alibi. Dempsey was home all evening. He called his daughter in Traverse City at 8:15 p.m. Phone records confirm this. He watched television until 11 p.m. No one can verify this, but he lives alone. Physical capability. At 68, Dempsey has arthritis, walks with a slight limp. Overpowering a family of 4 would be difficult. Motive: none. No disputes. Dempsey has no criminal record. Financial records show a modest retirement income, Social Security, no unusual activity. DNA sample, provided voluntarily. Type A positive. Fingerprints do not match those on the gas can. Negative, Kowalczyk writes. On September 3rd, a potential lead emerges. A witness, Holly Patterson, who lives 2 miles south of Blackwood Road, contacts the sheriff's office. She recalls seeing a man walking along Blackwood Road on the afternoon of June 27th. I was driving home from work around 5 p.m., Holly says. I saw a man walking on the shoulder, heading east. He wore jeans, a dark jacket, seemed odd in the heat, and a baseball cap. He had a backpack. I remember thinking it was weird because no one walks that road. It's all woods. Kowalczyk arranges for Holly to work with a forensic sketch artist. Over 3 hours, they produce a composite. White male, approximately 30 to 45 years old, medium build, wearing a dark baseball cap, sunglasses obscuring his eyes, short brown beard. The sketch is released to media on September 10th, with a request for information. Do you recognize this man? Tips pour in, 23 calls in the first week. Each is investigated. Most are misidentifications, brothers, ex-husbands, random hikers. None lead anywhere. One tip stands out. A caller says the man resembles Ethan Cross, a 37-year-old unemployed laborer who occasionally does odd jobs in Oscoda County. Cross has a criminal record: petty theft, DUI, trespassing. Kowalczyk brings Cross in for questioning on September 18th. Cross, thin and nervous, denies being on Blackwood Road on June 27th. His alibi: he was at a friend's house in town, drinking beer and watching TV. The friend, Gary Locke, confirms this, though Locke admits they were both intoxicated and his memory is hazy. DNA sample provided under warrant. Typo positive. Fingerprints do not match the Gaskin prints. Physical evidence: Cross's vehicle, a rusted 1989 Dodge pickup, shows no evidence of transporting the McAllisters. No blood, no fibers matching their clothing, no personal items. Kowalczyk releases Cross after 8 hours. Insufficient evidence, he notes. The man in the woods remains unidentified. October 2003. The McAllister case, once headline news, fades from public attention. The Detroit Free Press runs a brief follow-up: Oscoda family still missing after 3 months. Local TV stations move on to other stories. At the Oscoda County Sheriff's Office, Detective Kowalczyk works the case quietly. He reviews files, re-interviews witnesses, checks new leads as they trickle in, each one proving baseless. On November 14, 2003, a deer hunter finds a woman's sneaker in the woods 6 miles from Blackwood Road. It's a size 7 Nike, white with blue trim. Jennifer McAllister wore size 7. The sneaker is collected, analyzed. DNA inside, insufficient for profiling. The shoe is aged, weathered, could have been there for years. No way to definitively link it to Jennifer. On December 2, 2003, the Ford Expedition is spotted, or so it seems. A gas station attendant in Sault Ste. Marie, 120 miles north, calls police. "I swear I saw that Expedition, the one from the news. Burgundy, older model. Guy pumping gas." Michigan State Police respond. They find a Burgundy Expedition, but the license plate is different, and the owner, a 62-year-old retiree, has owned the vehicle for 5 years. False alarm. By January 2004, the case is 6 months old. Sheriff Dunham holds a press conference on the 6-month anniversary. Cameras are fewer. Reporters ask the same questions. "We have not given up," Dunham says. "This is an active investigation." But privately, the momentum has stalled. The evidence is thin. The leads are exhausted. The McAllisters have vanished as completely as if the earth swallowed them. In March 2004, Detective Kowalczyk writes a 53-page summary report. He concludes, "All evidence suggests the McAllister family left their residence voluntarily on the evening of June 27, 2003. The vehicle was operational. No signs of struggle at the residence. However, their destination and fate remain unknown. Possibilities include: 1. Vehicular accident in remote area, not yet discovered. 2. Voluntary disappearance for unknown reasons. 3. Foul play by unknown subjects. Without additional evidence, the case cannot be resolved." On April 8, 2004, 10 months after the disappearance, the case file is officially transferred to the Cold Case Unit. A designation that means active investigation is suspended, but the case remains open. The physical file, 3 bankers' boxes filled with reports, photographs, evidence logs, witness statements, is stored in the Sheriff's Office evidence vault, a climate-controlled room in the basement where unsolved cases gather dust. The label on the boxes reads, "McAllister Family, Missing Persons, Case #03-0627, Pending Investigation." Pending. Not closed, but not active. Karen McAllister-Hartwell visits Blackwood Road on June 27th, the 2-year anniversary. She places white daisies, Jennifer's favorite flower, at the end of the driveway. She stands there for 20 minutes, alone, tears streaming down her face. She does this every year. Detective Kowalczyk retires from the Oscoda County Sheriff's Office after 31 years of service. On his last day, he sits at his desk, cleaning out drawers. He finds a small notebook, personal notes he kept on the McAllister case. Page after page. Observations, theories, questions. Why the gas can? Why the chemical smell David mentioned? Why east on Blackwood Road? He slips the notebook into his jacket pocket. At home, he places it in a drawer in his study. He can't let it go. The McAllister house at 4782 Blackwood Road stands empty. Karen couldn't bear to sell it. She pays the property taxes each year, keeps the utilities on. Once a month, she drives up from Lansing to check on it. She walks through the rooms, touching the furniture, half expecting her sister to call out from the kitchen. The house waits. A new detective, Lieutenant Sarah Brennan, no relation to Victor Brennan, takes over the cold case unit. She reviews the McAllister file, notes the lack of resolution. She considers reopening the investigation, but without new evidence, there's nothing to pursue. It's a ghost case, she tells her sergeant. No body, no vehicle, no witnesses. Just gone. Karen McAllister-Hartwell is diagnosed with breast cancer. She undergoes surgery, chemotherapy. During treatment, lying in a hospital bed, she thinks of Jennifer. Where are you, Jenny? What happened to you? She survives. The cancer goes into remission. She returns to Blackwood Road on June 27, 2011, places white daisies, whispers, 8 years. I haven't forgotten. February 14th. The McAllister property is sold. Karen, needing funds for medical bills, finally agrees to list it. A young couple from downstate, Mark and Teresa Holcomb, purchased the property for $112,000, a foreclosure price, given its isolation and dark history. They move in March 2012, eager to renovate. The house needs work. Peeling paint, sagging porch steps, a roof that leaks. On May 3, 2012, Mark Holcomb notices a smell. At first, he thinks it's a dead animal, maybe a raccoon died under the house. The smell is faint, musty, emanating from the floor vents. As days pass, it worsens. By May 10th, it's unbearable. Teresa insists they investigate. Mark, holding a flashlight and wearing a dust mask, crawls into the crawlspace beneath the house through an access panel in the basement. The crawlspace is low, less than 3 feet of clearance. Dirt floor, cinderblock foundation, spider webs draping from floor joists. Mark crawls forward on his belly, flashlight beam cutting through darkness. The smell intensifies. Sweet, rotten, unmistakable. 20 feet from the access panel, his flashlight illuminates something wrapped in black plastic sheeting. He moves closer. The plastic is torn in places. Fabric visible. Bone. Mark scrambles backward, shouting. He emerges from the crawlspace, rips off the mask, vomits in the yard. Teresa calls 911. At 11:47 a.m. on May 10, 2012, Oscoda County Sheriff's deputies arrive at 4782 Blackwood Road. They enter the crawlspace. They confirm human remains. The cold case, dormant for 9 years, erupts back to life. May 10, 2012. Within 2 hours of Mark Holcomb's 911 call, 4782 Blackwood Road is a crime scene. Yellow tape cordons the property. Sheriff's vehicles line the driveway. A forensic team in white Tyvek suits moves through the house. Lieutenant Sarah Brennan, now lead investigator of the cold case unit, ducks into the crawlspace at 2:15 p.m., accompanied by forensic technician Michael Garrett. They wear respirators. The smell of decomposition is overpowering. Garrett's flashlight scans the body. It's wrapped in black plastic contractor bags, bound with duct tape. The plastic has deteriorated, torn open in sections by rodents and moisture. Skeletal remains visible. Clothing, faded, dirt-stained. Appears to be a woman's. Floral pattern fabric, remnants of a yellow sundress. Jennifer McAllister wore a yellow sundress on June 27, 2003. Brennan's pulse quickens. Photograph everything, she says. We process this by the book. Over the next 6 hours, the forensic team meticulously documents the scene. They take 347 photographs. They measure distances, map the crawlspace layout, collect soil samples. They carefully extricate the remains, bones, fabric, the plastic sheeting, the duct tape, and place them in evidence bags for transport to the Michigan State Police Forensic Laboratory. By 8:30 p.m., the remains are en route to the lab. By 9 p.m., Lieutenant Brennan is on the phone with Karen McAllister-Hartwell. "Karen," Brennan says gently, "we found human remains at the Blackwood Road property. We don't have positive identification yet, but we believe it's Jennifer." Karen's world collapses. "Oh God, oh God, where are David and the kids?" "We're searching," Brennan says. "We're searching everywhere." Over the next 3 days, teams equipped with ground-penetrating radar, cadaver dogs, and excavation equipment search the entire 12-acre property. They scan every inch of the crawl space, the basement, the yard, the woods surrounding the house. They find nothing else. No additional remains. No grave sites. Only Jennifer. May 15, 2012. The Michigan State Police Forensic Laboratory completes preliminary analysis. Forensic anthropologist Dr. Helen Ortiz examines the skeletal remains. Female, approximately 35 to 40 years old. Height consistent with 5 feet 6 inches. Dental records, provided by Jennifer's dentist match. Positive identification. Jennifer Marie McAllister, born April 12, 1965. Age at death, 38. Cause of death, blunt force trauma to the skull. Dr. Ortiz identifies 3 distinct fractures to the occipital and parietal bones, back and side of the skull, consistent with repeated strikes from a heavy object. The fractures are perimortem, occurring at or near the time of death. "These are not accidental injuries," Dr. Ortiz states in her report. "The pattern suggests homicide. Victim was struck multiple times with significant force. Manner of death, homicide. The case is no longer a missing persons investigation. It's a murder investigation." Sheriff Harold Dunham, now 71 and serving his final term before retirement, holds a press conference on May 17th. "We have confirmed the identity of remains found at 4782 Blackwood Road as Jennifer McAllister," he announces. "Her death has been ruled a homicide. We are actively investigating. We are seeking information on the whereabouts of David McAllister, Emma McAllister, and Cole McAllister." The national media descends on Oscoda County. CNN, NBC, ABC, they all run segments. The case, dormant for 9 years, becomes a headline again. Michigan mother found dead 9 years after family disappearance. Lieutenant Brennan assembles a task force. 6 detectives, 8 deputies, state police assistants, FBI consultation. They work from a war room at the sheriff's office, walls covered with maps, photos, timelines. The questions are stark. Did David kill Jennifer and hide her body? So where is he? Where are the children? Or did someone else kill the entire family? If so, why is only Jennifer's body at the property? June 2012. The task force re-examines every piece of evidence from 2003. They re-interview witnesses. They analyze the crawlspace scene for forensic clues. On June 8th, forensic technician Michael Garrett makes a discovery. While processing soil samples collected from beneath Jennifer's remains, he detects unusual chemical residues. The soil is discolored darker, almost oily. Lab analysis reveals elevated levels of trichloroethylene, TCE, benzene, and other volatile organic compounds, VOCs. These are industrial solvents, toxic chemicals used in manufacturing, degreasing metal parts, cleaning machinery. "This soil is contaminated," Garrett tells Brennan. "These chemicals don't occur naturally." Brennan orders comprehensive soil testing across the entire McAllister property. Teams drill core samples at 20 locations. Results come back on June 22nd. Widespread contamination. TCE levels exceed EPA safety limits by a factor of 50 in some areas. Benzene, xylene, toluene, all present in concentrations indicating industrial dumping. "Someone used this property as a dumping site," Brennan says. "But who? And when?" On June 25th, Brennan drives to the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, office in Lansing. She meets with environmental investigator Robert Tisch, a 25-year veteran who specializes in illegal waste disposal. Brennan shows him the soil analysis. Tisch's expression darkens. "This is bad," he says. "TCE, benzene, these are carcinogens. Long-term exposure causes cancer, neurological damage, liver failure. Whoever dumped this committed serious environmental crimes. And if people were living there, the McAllisters lived there," Brennan says. Tisch pulls records. He searches for any permits, complaints, enforcement actions related to 4782 Blackwood Road. Nothing. No history of legal disposal. No reported contamination. "This was done illegally," Tisch concludes. "Someone was sneaking waste onto the property. But who had access? The property is remote, gated. The McAllisters would have noticed trucks coming in, unless they were coming in at night, or unless someone with authority was involved." Brennan returns to Oscoda. On July 2nd, she interviews the Holcombs, Mark and Teresa, the new property owners. They moved in March 2012, 2 months before finding Jennifer's body. "Did you notice anything unusual when you first moved in?" Brennan asks. Teresa thinks. "There were tire tracks, deep ruts in the back field, near the tree line. We thought maybe the previous owners used that area for parking or something." "Show me," Brennan says. They walk the property. Behind the house, past the detached garage, a field stretches 200 yards to the woods. Teresa points to faint depressions in the grass, parallel lines, consistent with vehicle tracks. Brennan calls in a forensic soil team. They excavate. Beneath the grass, compacted earth, more chemical residues, and buried beneath 8 inches of soil, dozens of rusted 55-gallon drums, partially crushed, leaking dark sludge. "Jesus," Brennan whispers. The drums are marked with faded stencils. Northwood Precision MFG. Northwood Precision Manufacturing. David McAllister's employer. July 10, 2012. Lieutenant Brennan obtains a warrant to search Northwood Precision Manufacturing. She arrives at 6 a.m. with 12 officers, DEQ investigators, and FBI agents. The plant manager, now a man named Gerald Stokes, Victor Brennan, retired in 2009, is stunned. "What's this about?" Stokes demands. "We're investigating illegal waste disposal," Brennan says. "And a homicide." The search takes 8 hours. Teams comb the facility. Offices, storage areas, loading docks, waste handling zones. They seize documents, shipping manifests, disposal records, financial ledgers. In a storage room, investigators find more 55-gallon drums marked with Northwood Precision labels. Lab analysis later confirms. The drums contain TCE, benzene, and other hazardous industrial solvents, chemicals used in the machining and degreasing processes at the plant. DQ investigator Robert Tisch reviews Northwood's waste disposal records. According to the documents, all hazardous waste is supposed to be handled by a licensed disposal contractor, Great Lakes Environmental Services, based in Detroit. But Tisch makes a call. Great Lakes Environmental Services has no record of servicing Northwood Precision after 2001. The contract was terminated. So where was Northwood's waste going? Tisch asks. Brennan pulls financial records. She finds payments, large, regular payments, to a company called Midstate Haulage LLC, based in Saginaw. Amounts, $4,000 per month, every month, from 2001 to 2003. She searches for Midstate Haulage LLC. The company exists barely. It's a shell corporation, registered in 2001, dissolved in 2004. Owner, Charles Novak, age 46, criminal record including fraud, racketeering, environmental violations. Brennan runs Novak's name. His last known address, a residence in Bay City, 85 miles south of Oscoda. She dispatches officers. Charles Novak is arrested on July 18, 2012, at his home. He's sitting on his porch drinking a beer when officers arrive. In interrogation, Novak is initially defiant. Then, faced with evidence, the drums, the soil contamination, the financial records, he cracks. "I was just hauling," Novak says. I didn't kill nobody. Hauling what? Brennan asks. Waste. Industrial waste. Northwood Precision paid me to get rid of it. Cheaper than legal disposal. Where did you dump it? Different places. Woods. Back roads. That property on Blackwood Road. I used it maybe a dozen times. The family was never home during the day. I drive in, unload drums in the back field, cover 'em with dirt. In and out in 30 minutes. Did the family know? No. Not at first. Not at first. Novak looks away. The guy David, he caught me. June 27, 2003. I was dumping a load middle of the day. He came home early. Saw me. Started yelling. Said he'd call the cops. Brennan leans forward. What happened? I left. I swear I left. I drove off. But I called my boss. Who was your boss? Novak hesitates. You gotta give me immunity. Tell me who. Victor Brennan. The plant manager at Northwood. He ran the whole operation. August 2012. The investigation explodes outward. Victor Brennan, retired plant manager of Northwood Precision, is brought in for questioning. Brennan, now 61, living on a generous pension in a lakeside home near Traverse City, denies everything. I don't know what Novak is talking about, he says. I had nothing to do with illegal dumping. But financial records tell a different story. Payments from Northwood Precision to Midstate Haulage were authorized by Brennan. Memos, emails recovered from company servers show Brennan coordinating disposal schedules with Novak. One email, dated May 15, 2003. Charlie, need pickup this Friday. Usual spot. 30 drums. Usual fee. Signed, VB. On August 24th, Victor Brennan is arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit illegal disposal of hazardous waste, environmental crimes, and obstruction of justice. But the murder charge remains elusive. Did Brennan order David McAllister's death? Did Novak return to Blackwood Road on June 27th and kill the family? Novak insists he left. I swear on my life I drove away. I called Brennan, told him the McAllister guy knew. That's all I did. Lieutenant Sarah Brennan, the detective, interviews Victor Brennan again on September 5th. He's lawyered up now, but Sarah presses. David McAllister discovered your dumping operation. You had a motive to silence him. I didn't kill anyone, Victor insists. Then who did? Victor says nothing. Sarah Brennan shifts tactics. She requests a warrant to search Victor Brennan's property. On September 10th, officers execute the search. They seize his vehicles, his computers, his files. In Victor Brennan's garage, forensic teams find something. A burgundy tarp, stained. Luminol testing, positive for blood. DNA analysis. The blood belongs to Jennifer McAllister. Victor Brennan is rearrested on September 15, 2012. This time, the charge is murder. But the case is not complete. Where are David, Emma, and Cole? Sarah Brennan pursues every lead. She authorizes searches of properties connected to Victor Brennan, Charles Novak, and anyone involved in the dumping scheme. She coordinates with FBI, state police, cadaver dog teams. In November 2012, a break. A hunter in the Huron National Forest, 40 miles from Blackwood Road, discovers skeletal remains in a shallow grave. Forensic analysis, 3 bodies. Adult male, juvenile female, juvenile male. Dental records confirm. David McAllister, Emma McAllister, Cole McAllister. Cause of death, gunshot wounds. David single gunshot to the head. Emma and Cole each shot once in the back of the head. The entire family, murdered. January 2013. Victor Brennan, facing overwhelming evidence, agrees to cooperate. In exchange for a reduced sentence, he provides information. I didn't pull the trigger, Brennan says, but I know who did. He names a man. Leonard Stricker, 49, a former employee at Northwood Precision. Stricker worked as a truck driver and general laborer from 1998 to 2003. He was involved in the dumping operation, driving loads, handling barrels. Leonard was the muscle, Brennan says. When Novak called and said David McAllister found out, I panicked. I called Leonard. Told him to handle it. Handle it how? I didn't say kill them. I swear. I just said, make sure they don't talk. Leonard Stricker is located in February 2013, living in Flint, Michigan under an alias, Leonard Cross. He's working as a janitor at a warehouse trying to stay invisible. He's arrested on February 22, 2013. In interrogation, Stricker initially denies everything, but DNA evidence contradicts him. A partial fingerprint lifted from the duct tape used to wrap Jennifer's body matches Stricker. DNA from saliva on the tape, microscopic traces, matches Stricker. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Stricker confesses on March 8, 2013. He describes the events of June 27, 2003. Charles Novak called Victor Brennan. Brennan called Stricker. He told me David McAllister found out about the dumping. Said if McAllister talked, we'd all go to prison. He said I needed to take care of it. Take care of it? I knew what he meant. Stricker drove to Blackwood Road that evening. Arriving around 7 p.m., he parked his truck in the woods, walked to the house. He knocked. Jennifer answered. Stricker forced his way inside, holding a handgun. Where's your husband? Stricker demanded. David was in the garage. Stricker forced Jennifer to call him inside. When David entered, Stricker held the gun on them. Emma and Cole were in the living room watching TV. Stricker herded the entire family into the kitchen. I told them they had to come with me. I said if they cooperated, no one would get hurt. He forced them into the Ford Expedition, David driving, Jennifer in the passenger seat, kids in the back. Stricker sat behind David, gun pressed to his head. They drove east on Blackwood Road, into the forest, following Stricker's directions. We drove for 20 minutes, got to a remote area. I told David to stop. Stricker made them get out. He marched them into the woods. He shot David first, then Emma, then Cole. Execution style. But Jennifer fought. She ran. Stricker chased her, caught her, struck her with the gun repeatedly until she stopped moving. He dragged her body back to the expedition. He drove back to Blackwood Road. Using tools from the McAllister garage, he accessed the crawl space, wrapped Jennifer's body in plastic, shoved it beneath the house. Why Jennifer under the house? But the others buried elsewhere? Sarah Brennan asks. I panicked. It was getting late. I didn't have time to move all of them. I figured I'd come back for her later, but I never did. Stricker returned to the woods, buried David, Emma, and Cole in a shallow grave. He drove the expedition to an industrial scrap yard in Detroit, where it was crushed and shredded within days. The McAllister family's vehicle was destroyed, erasing evidence. Leonard Stricker is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and numerous other crimes. Victor Brennan, who ordered the murders, is charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Charles Novak, though not directly involved in the killings, is charged with conspiracy and environmental crimes. The trials take years. Legal maneuvers, delays, appeals. Finally, in June 2023, 20 years after the McAllisters vanished, the cases reach resolution. Leonard Stricker, convicted on all counts, sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. Victor Brennan, convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, illegal disposal of hazardous waste, sentenced to 45 years in prison. Charles Novak, convicted of environmental crimes, conspiracy, sentenced to 12 years in prison. The trial of Leonard Stricker begins in March 2023 in Oscoda County Circuit Court. The courtroom is packed. Karen McAllister-Hartwell sits in the front row every day, flanked by friends and supporters. The prosecution presents overwhelming evidence. DNA linking Stricker to Jennifer's body, his confession, ballistics matching the weapon used to kill David, Emma, and Cole, recovered from Stricker's storage unit, and testimony from Victor Brennan. Stricker's defense attorney argues coercion, claiming Brennan pressured Stricker, that he acted under duress. The jury doesn't buy it. On May 12, 2023, after 8 hours of deliberation, the jury returns, guilty on all counts. Sentencing occurs on June 15, 2023. Judge Martin Hale reads the sentence. For consecutive life terms without possibility of parole, Stricker, shackled and emotionless, is led away. Victor Brennan's trial concludes in July 2023. He is convicted and sentenced to 45 years. At 72, it's effectively a life sentence. Charles Novak pleads guilty, receives 12 years. On June 27, 2023, 20 years to the day after the McAllisters disappeared, Karen McAllister-Hartwell attends a memorial service at the Oscoda Community Cemetery. 4 headstones, side by side. David McAllister, 1962 to 2003. Jennifer McAllister, 1965 to 2003. Emma McAllister, 1989 to 2003. Cole McAllister, 1992 to 2003. Karen places white daisies at each grave. She kneels, touches the cool granite, whispers, "I never stopped looking. I never forgot. Now you can rest." Over 200 community members attend. Former neighbors, Jennifer's friends, Cole's baseball coach, Emma's classmates, now adults, some with children of their own. Sheriff Harold Dunham, now 82, retired and frail, attends. He stands beside Lieutenant Sarah Brennan. "We did it," Dunham says quietly. "Took 20 years, but we did it." Sarah Brennan nods. "They deserved justice, and they finally got it." 1 week after the memorial, Sarah Brennan visits retired Detective Raymond Kowalczyk at his home. He's 76 now, still sharp-eyed, but moving slowly. "We got him, Ray," she says. "Leonard Stricker, Victor Brennan, all of them." Kowalczyk nods. He pulls the old notebook from his desk drawer, the one he kept during the original investigation. He flips through pages of handwritten notes. "I knew something was wrong," he says. David mentioning the chemical smell, the gas can, the lack of evidence at the house. "I knew it wasn't a simple disappearance, but I couldn't see the whole picture." "You couldn't have known," Sarah says. "The dumping operation was hidden." Brennan covered his tracks. Kowalczyk closes the notebook. "But we got there. Eventually. Technology helped," Sarah says. "DNA analysis improved since 2003. Environmental testing improved. We had tools you didn't have. And persistence," Kowalczyk adds. "You didn't give up." Sarah smiles. "Neither did you." On a warm evening in July 2023, Karen McAllister-Hartwell drives to Blackwood Road one last time. The property has been seized by the state due to environmental contamination. It sits empty, fenced off, pending cleanup. Karen parks at the end of the driveway. She doesn't go onto the property. She just stands there, looking at the house, white with green shutters sagging now, windows dark. She thinks of Jennifer, of David, of Emma and Cole. She remembers summer barbecues, holiday dinners, laughter. She thinks of 20 years of searching, 20 years of not knowing. Now she knows. It doesn't ease the pain, but it provides something, an end, a truth, a confirmation that they mattered, that their deaths were not forgotten, that the people responsible faced consequences. Karen places one final bouquet of white daisies at the edge of the driveway. She whispers, "Goodbye, Jenny. I love you." She gets back in her car. She drives away. Behind her, the sun sets over Oscoda County, casting long shadows through the pine forests. The wind stirs the branches, rustling leaves. The daisies tremble in the breeze. In the soil beneath Blackwood Road, toxins remain. Evidence of greed, of recklessness, of crimes that reached beyond murder into environmental destruction. But the people who perpetrated those crimes are now behind bars. The McAllister family's story, tragic and cruel, has finally reached its conclusion. Justice, delayed for 2 decades, has arrived at last. And in the fading light, among the pines and the quiet, the memory of 4 innocent lives persists, small, stubborn, enduring, like daisies pushing through poisoned earth. The Blackwood Road property was declared a Superfund site by the EPA in 2024. Cleanup efforts are ongoing. The contaminated soil is being excavated and transported to certified hazardous waste facilities. The house was demolished in August 2024. Karen McAllister-Hartwell established the McAllister Family Memorial Scholarship at Oscoda Elementary School, providing educational support for local students in memory of Jennifer, Emma, and Cole. Leonard Stricker is incarcerated at the Michigan Department of Corrections, Kinross Correctional Facility. He is 60 years old. He will die in prison. Victor Brennan is incarcerated at Chippewa Correctional Facility. He is 72 years old. He will die in prison. Charles Novak is scheduled for release in 2035. He is 67 years old. Detective Lieutenant Sarah Brennan continues to lead the cold case unit at Oscoda County Sheriff's Office. She has solved 6 cold cases since 2012. Raymond Kowalczyk, retired detective, passed away peacefully in October 2024 at age 77, surrounded by family. His notebook, the one containing his original McAllister case notes, was donated to the Michigan State Police Cold Case Archive. The McAllister family rests together at Oscoda Community Cemetery. Their graves are visited frequently. People leave flowers, photographs, notes. One note, left by a stranger, reads, "You were not forgotten. Justice came. Rest in peace."